Hey everyone, it's day 2 of my 100-day challenge, and I promised all of you that I would let you into the dark side of my life, so you get all the juicy goodies on me. Um, I had mentioned in my last video about manifesting money through pornography for myself, and kind of what happened was I was sitting there on the computer one day and I really just had no money at all. And when I say no money, I mean I have been living on ramen noodles, which is like a very cheap pasta soup type thing, and eggs. And I needed something. And at that point, I was not willing to prostitute myself or, sell drugs or anything like that. And I thought, well, how can I do this? How can I make money? And back then, eBay was a little bit more lax in their rules. And going through that, I found that a lot of women at that point were selling their panties online. So men were bidding on these women's panties and, $10, $28, sometimes $100. It all depends on how much they wanted that woman's panties. And I thought to myself that there's got to be a lot of gay men out there who are into the same thing. And I just got to be able to tap into that market. And so I made up fake stories and used my pictures or fake pictures or whatever, to get started. And it worked. Sure enough, the following week I got $45. And from there, it took off. I thought, well, if I can do it this way, I can get more. And I need more. I have to pay my rent and I have to eat. I had roommates at the time and I didn't tell them really. I mean, a female, we had two other guys living with me and a woman, and she knew more about me. We're a lot alike, and she knew a lot about me, and I was very open with her about how things really were with me, and she understood me in a way that I think a lot of people to this date have not. But going back to what I was saying, I started finding pornography sites where they were hosting live cameras, and back in the 90s, at least the mid 90s, this was very new. There was Jenny Cam, and she was on HBO Real Sex, and that's how I had first seen people starting live cameras. And now we have streaming like YouTube, but back then it was like a refresh rate of every 60 seconds they got a photograph. And this was like top of the line technology. Maybe if you were lucky, you were getting every 30 seconds. And I wrote to companies, and this company, Men with Cams, wrote back, and they were interested. And I got everything set up, and I started from there. And the funny thing is money came in, like I said. But I was also a slave, not to that company, but to myself. Here I was on a global thing where the more action there was, the more money that would come in, but yet I was living in New York. And when I went to sleep, people in Australia, people in England, stuff like that, they weren't asleep. It was their lunch hour, it was their dinner hour, whatever country it was, and I felt obligated to stay up all the time to make all these people happy. And I would go out to the bars and I would drink, and it would hit 8 o'clock, and I would think to myself, I gotta get going soon because people in Australia will be upset, or whatever country it was that I used to get emails from. Every time I watch you, you're sleeping, because the camera was on 24/7. And I became a slave to that, like I said. And at the same time, it gave me a false sense of power behind it, that I was feeling as if I was controlling my destiny. But really, for lack of a better word, it was controlling me. And I was just completely in this void of where I felt nothing. Sex became nothing. Feelings became nothing. When I was tired, I would ignore it. It was a very dark point in my life. And to this day, if I type in my porn star name, if you want to call it that, on Google, tons of things still come up. The pictures are still there. People still wonder where I went. They had this fallacy in their mind of how perfect my life was, and how they wish they were with me, or they wish they could hang out with me. Because what I portrayed was life in perfection, and that's what they assumed. From that, I learned a very important lesson. Let's say you have a couple $100,000 just to blow for no reason. You just can waste it. If you take your photograph and you put it up on billboards in major cities across this country, and I live in the United States, but I guess it would work in any country, you put it up there and it says nothing at all, just your photograph, for all the cars during rush hour to come by and just see your photograph. They now think you're someone. They think that you are important because you are on that billboard, when really you know that you're no different than anyone else at all. But because you're up there for all to see, you're on the computer, you're on the billboard, you're wherever you put yourself on public display, you're now important. And I guess I found that interesting. I would never want to be close to what celebrities have, the Paris Hiltons and everything, with the paparazzi follow them around. With my agoraphobia and panic attacks, I would absolutely die. I mean, I couldn't handle that kind of pressure, at least not right now. But it's really just what you're bombarded with. If someone sees your image enough, you're famous. But you're really not. And I guess there's a movie out there. It's called Gia, G-I-A. It's about one of the first supermodels. And if you haven't seen that movie, I would suggest renting it, because it really shows how fabulous everyone on the outside thought that this girl's life was, and how devastating it was on the inside. And it's amazing to me. I would never take back that experience that I had, which I will delve into what else it led to. Believe me, that was just the beginning of what I've done. But it amazed me how quickly I could go somewhere and people would say, you know, if I went to Canada, for instance, to Montreal, and I went to a club called the Sky Club. And I remember being on the second floor, and someone's like, "Oh, you're so-and-so. I've seen you. This is my boyfriend. And, oh, we watch you all the time." And I had a guy that lived in Florida. I think it was Palm something, Florida. I forget the name of the city. That actually hooked a special device to his big screen television. So when he would sleep in his living room, he could see me sleeping. And that gave him comfort. There was another man whose boyfriend had died of AIDS. And I had reminded him of his boyfriend, and I gave him comfort. So it's strange, because even in that dark realm that I was in, other people still found comfort in me, no matter how messed up that situation actually was. It goes to show how so many times people are still looking for love, for comfort, for acceptance. And for a lot of people, just watching me sleep on their television screen or on their computer made them feel safe, and they had not a clue in the world how unsafe and devastated I felt. And that's my story for today, and I will talk to you more tomorrow. And like I promised, first couple days going to be very negative, so if you're not into that type of thing, you might want to skip past and then try to figure out why I'm saying the things I'm saying when I'm being positive. But have a good night, everyone.